Guys, it's William at Hope Home Inspections. I just wanted to talk a little bit today about mold, kind of why we do mold sampling, what our procedure is out in the field, and then just a little bit about reports. We're today in construction building better sealed homes with a more mold sensitive materials. So we focus a lot on the efficiency of the home, ensuring that no outside hot air from Florida is getting in and no inside nice cold air is getting out. This combined with the fact that we now have tons of moisture, both just running plumbing water, moisture drainage, all sorts of stuff in the house, has created more mold rich environments. So air quality is becoming a bigger and bigger thing. It really didn't become a thing until about the 80s. There hasn't been a whole lot of studying on it, and as the studying grows and grows and grows, how big of an issue it is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. The most common things that cause mold issues in the house, mold is caused by moisture. So you get roof leaks, you have plumbing leaks, windows or doors that leak, showers and tubs that aren't properly caulked and leak moisture into the interior walls. Our AC units, as they run, create condensation, and that drains out of the house. If that line gets backed up, you're not bringing moisture that way into the house. A plethora of ways to get moisture into the house. In Florida, one of the most common ways to bring moisture in is humidity. We really want the humidity level in a home to be between 30 and 55%, 50 being almost ideal. A lot of people in Florida love to open their windows and doors. It's such a nice day out, let me open my windows and doors. Now you're letting 80% of humidity air into the house, closing your windows and doors at night to go to sleep, and you've just brought a whole lot of moisture into your house. Now, if you have a really good AC system that you're running regularly, that AC system is going to suck the moisture back out of the air. However, if you're not running your AC and you're just running fans, you've got a bunch of moisture in the house. We're always on the lookout for wallpaper. We really never want to see wallpaper get installed on a exterior wall or in a bathroom. This is actually a photo of wallpaper right above a shower enclosure. This is a shower enclosure. You can see the wallpaper's peeling a little bit. We just peeled it back, saw that, ran a swab to verify it was Aspergillus penicillium and Cladosporium. Okay, we need to remove all that drywall or that wallpaper off the drywall now and clean the area, stop having an issue. So that's again just a high cause area of mold. If we ever have someone that's complaining about a smell, they have a moisture issue. Moisture and mold go hand in hand, and if you can smell something, what you're actually smelling is the mold digesting what it's eating, and essentially it's farts. It's called a VOC, a volatile organic compound. When it comes from mold, it's actually called an MVOC. So just as the mold is eating stuff, it's releasing gases, and that's what people are smelling. So if you have a smell, you have a moisture issue because the moisture is accumulating to mold growth. It's really important that we ask our customers why we're there. Are you having health issues? Are you sneezing all the time? Are you having breathing issues? Are you immune system deficient? What's going on? Did the roof leak? Did the sink overflow? Did the tub overflow? Did something get spilled? Why are we here? Where should we look? What should we be testing? What means should we be testing by? They have the most information about anyone about their house. So it's always important for us to ask why we're here. What are we looking for? What's the cause of the call? Go with them, get input from them. Air quality sampling. So air quality sampling is this little cassette. Basically the hose hooks up to one side of it, it sucks air from the other side of it, and there's a little sticky tube in there, and it's like a sticky plate. Basically anything coming through it sticks to it. The lab looks at that, whether they use a microscope, some labs use a fancy computer laser. It counts up all the stuff that's in there and then produces us a report. So we want to run these inside the house when it's been sitting for a little while. We don't want to show up to a house that's got all the windows and doors open and run the test in there because we're testing the outside air. So really we want the house to sit closed for like 24 hours. 18 hours is good, 12 hours is good, just any extended period of time closed. We want to test the inside envelope of the home, the sealed air inside the house. And then we're also going to take a sample outside as a control to compare those samples. In Florida especially, we have mold everywhere. As soon as you walk outside, you're breathing in mold. I mean, it's allergy, it's dander, it's pollen, it's this. There's a bunch of mold out there too. There's even spores from mushrooms that you're breathing in. So we just want to know that the air inside our house is cleaner than the air outside of our house. We run the pump at about 3 to 6 feet off the ground. We want to be testing the breathing zone where most people in the house are going to be breathing. We also want to test in the most common areas, the master bedroom, the guest bedroom, the living room, the kitchen, where you're going to be spending the most amount of time. Like I said, we always take a control sample outside. There's mold everywhere. We want to compare what the level is outside to what the level is inside. Someone might get scared by 400 spores of Aspergillus penicillium in their house, but if the outside count is 8,000, your house is doing a really good job of keeping it clean. People who insist that they have a health issue caused by mold, that call us, they get air quality sampling, and their mold report comes back clean, or nothing's elevated, nothing's hazardous, those people need a VOC test. VOC is a volatile organic compound. It's basically a gas. If you're ever painting your inside walls of your house, you smell something, that's a VOC. If you're ever varnishing or staining some wood, you smell something, that's a VOC. And different VOCs can be very hazardous to people. Gasoline releases VOCs, and that can make you pass out and make you get headaches all the time. So someone whose mold report doesn't give us an answer and they're determined, convinced that their house is giving them this health issue, okay, let's do a VOC test. When we get our samples, we get all sorts of numbers, 800, 400, 200, this much of that, this much of that. What we get, only about 10% of that is viable. Viable means it'll grow. So only about 10% of what's floating around in the air is actually gonna land somewhere and grow. That's important just to share with someone and say, hey, I know this count is high, but only about 10% of that's gonna grow. So you're not gonna have this mold growth off the charts. However, those non-viable spores are still allergenic to us. They can still irritate our breathing, our noses, our eyes, whatever. A lot of molds too can affect you if they're ingested. So there's still plenty of reasons to be concerned about non-viable stuff, but just know that only about 10% of what's landing is growing. Swab sampling. Swab is basically a little Q-tip on a stick. We just swab it right when we see something. So air quality is, hey, I think there's a problem. I don't see anything though. Swab is, hey, I know that there's mold right there. What kind of mold is it? Let's swab it and find out. Is it stachy that we really need to be worried about, black mold, or is it just some cladosporium and some Aspergillus penicillium? Still a problem, but not at the same level. We often say that we should do these in conjunction with an air quality. Hey, we see this, let's also test your air, swab this. Okay, if it's only this in the air, we know where it's coming from, but we don't want to miss another type of mold that we can't see that's up in your air. So always a good idea to do both, multiple types of testing. Some do's and don'ts. In the field, we're always going to refer to it as organic growth. Until we test it and they tell us what kind it is, it's organic growth. We don't know if it's a mold, a mushroom, a this, or that. So let's just wait until the lab tells us. We always want to check for moisture levels where we see growth. For mold to be growing, it needs to be wet. So if it's dry, we can maybe say, hey, it's probably dead right now, but if it gets wet again, it could just come right back to life. We always want to just test discolored wood. A lot of people think sometimes it's just a burn in the wood or a knot in the wood, but wood really gets black as it gets wet, so any discolored wood we're going to be testing. And we just got to be aware, we use an infrared camera to look for moisture levels in a house. And if the house is super duper humid, that infrared camera can actually be affected by that and not see a leak or something like that. So just something to be aware of if we're in a house that's 90% humidity. Hey, your infrared camera is not your end all be all. You really need to be using your eyes looking for staining and moisture in that way. These are just a couple pictures I want to go over. Zoom in on the TV screen a little bit for you. So this is just a wall that's had a bunch of moisture intrusion into it. Down here at the bottom in the baseboard we have some mold growing, and then there's also, this is all sorts of mold up in the wall here, so that's a pretty obvious one. This is actually mold growing on the wall behind the oven, so it's difficult to see, but again, you have all sorts of growth there, very visual, very aware. This is Aspergillus penicillium. This is a super common thing we get all the time. So AC duct goes up against the ceiling, it doesn't get perfectly sealed. Our attics in Florida are really hot, so we have a little bit of hot air escaping the attic space right here. hitting this freezing cold AC duct where it's reaching its dew point. We're having some condensation, and then because of that condensation, some mold is being able to form in the moisture. This is a really common issue. This really just needs to be cleaned and resealed, but it just leads us down the road of looking. This is a mold report. Let's see if I can just zoom in a little bit better on this. So just going to go over this. It's not going to make a whole lot of sense and be super pertinent, but just to give you a better idea so that you know a little bit. We have 4 licensed mold assessors on staff currently, and we'll probably have even more at some point in time. So always a good idea to just reach out to those guys, to me, to Joe, Gino, Robert, and ask us. We're happy to talk your clients through their reports, but this is just a super brief thing. So this is our controller outside, and this is what's going on inside. So you can see, there was a lot more mold found outside than inside the house. So right off the bat, hey, our house is doing a good job. It's keeping the air inside nice and clean. Our windows probably have good seals, good weather stripping on our doors, and the AC unit is probably working well. So to go down and compare, we had some cladosporium inside the house. Well, we had 12 inside the house and 64 outside the house, so it's doing good. The lab felt that none of these numbers were high enough to be of concern. They get red when they are. Again, we get down to the hyphae. Hyphae is actually like the root system of growth, so that tells us stuff's actively growing, but it's at 8 and the outside is 16, so again, I'd say we're pretty clear on that part. Penicillium aspergillus is 48 outside and 48 inside. It's right about the same. Again, it's not a level that's high enough to be worried about, and because it's at equal number to what's outside, I would say we're pretty good. There's probably some air movement, people coming in and out, and again, this is just a really common, not super harmful mold. Start to get a little bit more complicated here now. Again, this time over here is our controller outside, and this is what's going on inside the house. So again, we got less stuff inside, so that's looking good off the bat. Of cladosporium, we have 20 inside and 48 outside, so it's doing a pretty good job. We have some Grevulvaria, which was inside and not outside, but nothing that the lab found to be elevated. Hyphae was a little bit higher inside, and Penicillium aspergillus was still a little bit high inside. Some Pithomycans were inside and not outside, but again, nothing really here that the lab thought was elevated. However, someone coming home from having an organ transplant, when you get a new organ, they put your immune system on some suppressant drugs, and one spore of this Penicillium aspergillus could kill someone in that situation with those drugs in their system. So that's why it's important for us to ask, what are we doing here? Is there anyone that's at risk in your house? What's going on? In typical standards for a healthy person, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this house. But an unhealthy person, they could potentially face some issues coming in here. This is just a swab sample. Basically, it says that there's Penicillium aspergillus there and that there's hyphae. So to me, this says, hey, this mold is present, and the hyphae, the root system being there, it's actively growing. So we have mold that's actively growing. There's an issue. These are just some numbers to show you some extremes. Penicillium aspergillus up in the raw count 305, and it wasn't found at all outside. So yeah, we have an issue in there. It's at a high level. The lab has alerted, hey, this is a problem, and you need to do something about it. Then this is probably the worst house I've ever been in. You actually had to sign a liability waiver to go inside of this house. We can see that the Penicillium aspergillus, the raw count, 6,209 downstairs, 2,590 upstairs, and there was 4 of them outside. So this one also had Stachy. Stachy is the black mold, the worst stuff, the viral sensation mold, the really, really bad stuff. So this house has big issues going on. Big items at foot that need to be addressed. This is a really old house. It's a 1920s house. Its crawl space is too low. It's not venting properly, and there was never a good vapor barrier put on the bottom side of the house. So there's a lot of nasty, wet soil under the home that's evaporating water up into the house, and just a lot of growth going on. They've had a lot of moisture issues in there over time. and it was just not a safe place. So that's mold, guys. It doesn't answer all the questions, but I hope it answers some of them. Like I said, if you're ever reviewing your report, you have any questions, anything like that, just reach out to us and give us a phone call. We're happy to chat you through it and help you learn a little bit more about it. Thanks so much. Have a great day.